I was born Michelle Ava in Brooklyn, New York, and I started taking my first dance classes when I was about 4.5 years old in a little neighborhood school called Miss Natalie's Dance Studio, and it was actually a long-distance cousin, and we did tap and baton twirling and elements of Broadway jazz and all this kind of fun mid-50s kind of dance. And my favorite part of her class was when she called it television, and she just put on the same music all the time. You just got up and you did too? Television. Okay. Well, yeah, but this is what the first segment of the class was called television, and you could just get up and you could dance whatever you wanted to dance. Of course, I found something. Of course, I had to dance with a prop or something colorful, right? So I grabbed something and I just improvised, and they called it interpretive dance in those days. So that was my favorite part of the class. My least favorite part of the class was that something called toe tap. Are you all familiar with toe tap? Judith, you must be. And it should have been illegal a long time ago, but it was literally taps on the bottom of your shoes, and my feet, as you can see, are small enough and square. It's like the last thing in the world. So, anyway, yeah. So at that point, I realized I wasn't going to be a ballerina. But so that was in the neighborhood in Brooklyn and Canarsie, and going on in high school, I would choreograph some of the school musicals, which were called Sings, and they were kind of thematic, dramatic, fun, comedic programs where you mix some theater and costuming and chorus lines and fun stuff like that, so I got very involved with that, but still at that point had not the slightest idea that I wanted to pursue dance as a career. Until I was in college, which was upstate New York, SUNY Buffalo, and I was a sociology major and kind of interested in the arts, but not quite sure what part of it I pursue, and I met this lovely lady, Linda, who said, come to a modern dance class. So I went with her to a modern dance class. The teacher's name was Rayanne Hawks. And Rayanne had us stand hand-to-hand with a partner. She just said, stand hand-to-hand with a partner and start swaying. And here it is, I'm thinking of modern dancing. I was a Dora Duncan, and I wore my scarf, and I whirled around, and she just said, and at about 3 weeks prior to that, I had started transcendental meditation. This is like the fall of 1970, and I had just gotten married to someone who was in medical school, the Gordon name. And so that comes into the story. So anyway, we're just kind of touching hands, and all of a sudden I started feeling this very transcendental experience of connecting deeply with this person that I was kind of moving, and I knew nothing about contact improv or energy work or healing or any of that. Anyway, that's where I got hooked. So, didn't care about steps, didn't care about any of that. I said, this is what modern dance is, this is the energy behind it, and this is what I want. So I was in undergraduate school, and then about 3 months later, somebody, not Merce Cunningham, but there was James Cunningham. Remember?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I hadn't heard from him. Heard anything. I didn't know. I mean, I wasn't. I was in my early 20s. I didn't really know yet any of the names. Anyway, his dance was holding hands with like an open call, and holding hands and swaying to James Taylor's Fire and Rain. And again, I was hooked. And I still had nerve and plie. My hair was flowing, and the scarf was going, and something's never changed.
Just in hair. Is she just in hair?
And people holding hands and swaying to Fire and Rain, and we acted out words, and it was like, part of me felt like this is really goofy, it was like, then I realized, oh, this is like television. This is like, the old days when we, fire and rain. Anyway, it was also very representational for me about community, which even now, many, many years later, one of my slogans is 3 C's, which is connectivity, community, and creativity. So those three pieces were right there very early. Anyway, I was married, we were in Buffalo, it was cold, it was snowy, and Mickey, my husband, Michael Gordon, got a residency at George Washington University. And I was graduating, and it was like, okay, now what? So I applied to GW, and got accepted in 1971. Gosh, did you start in 71 or 72? And that's what brought me to DC. He did his residency, he was in ophthalmology, and I started graduate school. Maida Withers was my main influence there, and every time I see Maida, I say, it is because of you that I am. You gave me permission to be wild and crazy. So, you know, it's like I wanted someone to suppress that and kind of get me a little bit more formalized in my thinking and in my being, and Maida kept, you know, egging me on. You know, I had to dance once with teddy bears sitting in a circle. My favorite story of teddy bears in a circle and a little cassette player, and all of a sudden somebody comes in from the outside and kind of clicks each one. These teddy bears sit in a circle just like this, and the song comes on, and I'm in the middle doing an improvisation. And I said, oh my God, I want to get a, it was experimental dance. That was the name of the program. I said, I want to get a D, and this is like ridiculous, and these teddy bears are sitting there, and I didn't take drugs. So it was just completely, and she thought it was the best thing I'd ever seen. So I said, okay, I'm definitely in trouble here. Overboard, too much New York is coming out. You know. So during that time, I met a woman, Margaret Ramsey, who was auditioning for an improvisation company. These were the days of Grand Union being very famous in Manhattan, in downtown Manhattan, and that's where I met Jack Rodone. We auditioned for the company, and we were the founding members of Free Association Dance Company, which was strictly improvisation, unscripted, get into a space, the Corcoran, pre-subway, but out in the street near bus stops, and we had a loose idea about what we were going to do. And it combined the theater, costume, verbalization, music, the whole gamut. And that's where I met Jack and Barbara Mueller, people like Wendy Woodson performed with us, Barb Whiteman from Source Theater, who's recently passed away.
What year was that, Tina?
She auditioned in 71, and the company lasted until about 75. Yeah. And Maida's influence in improvisation was very strong, but Free Association was a huge influence in my work. And so I was at GW to 75, and I did my graduate thesis on the effects of transcendental meditation on the learning of dance. And my graduate thesis dance was a piece called To Let the Arrow Fly, First Draw Back the Bow, which was all about coming from a place of silence and transcendence into a dynamic, forward, manifest being, whether it be through dance or any of the other expressions in the arts. And that was in 75, and my marriage was kind of a little rocky. I mean, I was never around, he was never around, he was in the hospital doing his work, I was in the studio in the theater, Martin Theater, I lived there. So the marriage was starting to dissolve, and but I did follow him out to Colorado while I was in Free Association, came back, and 75 was pretty much on my own.